This fanciful tale explores the limitations of magic. And now for my Dark Matters collection, I present to you, Be Careful What You Draw. Chapter 1, Davenports. I'm not a kid anymore, but my story started back when I was. It was the summer between 4th and 5th grade. I was 9 years old, going on 10. Our family was on vacation in London, England, and we were on a walking tour of the city. One of our stops was Davenport's, a very old family magic shop located in an underground arcade, and it was celebrating its 100th anniversary. I was so fascinated by the magical merchandise that the next day I begged my parents to take me back, as it was my last chance before flying home. They agreed, but if I had a do-over, I'm not entirely sure I would make that request again. Chapter 2, the next day. I spent over an hour perusing the different magic tricks, magic books, magicians' hats, wands, and other magical paraphernalia. As chance would have it, I spotted a small box on a shelf too high to reach. It was the size and shape of a small Crayola box, but it was plain white cardboard with black labeling that, with a bit of squinting, I could just about read. 8 magic crayons. In the smaller print below, in parentheses, it stated, "Warning, be careful what you draw." This made me all the more curious and dead set on purchasing what was apparently the last box left. It was a bit pricey, but my dad willingly paid the €10. At the register, I was assured it would be well worth the cost. As we were walking out the door, Mr. Davenport called out to me, "Make sure you heed that warning, kid. Be careful what you draw." Chapter 3, No Joke. After a long flight, a late night, and a restless sleep, I awoke with only one thought in mind. To my surprise, when I opened the box, it was filled with 8 identical crayons. Each one had a white paper covering like ordinary Crayolas, with a single word printed in bold black letters: magic. It was then that my mother poked her head into my room. When she saw my box of magic crayons, she reminded me, "Make sure you heed that warning, Max. Be careful what you draw." Her notably sarcastic tone told me she had little faith in magic. The crayons each had a fine point, but the wax was crystal clear, like the most perfectly transparent glass you've ever seen. I immediately assumed that I was duped. Colorless crayons? Seriously? Ha! Joke's on me, I thought. But to my complete surprise, on paper, that crystal clear wax somehow turned into the exact colors of whatever I drew in real time. But that magical quality was just the tip of the crayon, so to speak, because they did a whole lot more than just change color. Chapter 4, I Can Draw. Back then, I was one of those kids who liked to say, "I can't draw." Of course, I could draw. I just wasn't very good at it. To my absolute amazement, that changed whenever I pulled the magic crayon from the box. It may sound crazy, but every time I held one, it would squirm in my hand, as if it couldn't wait to draw. And to this day, I swear that each of my magic crayons literally guided my hand as if they could read my mind. It was more than a bit creepy at first, but I'm so used to it now that I barely notice. And so, over a span of many years, my magic crayons and I created a series of incredibly realistic and detailed drawings that changed my life forever. And I do mean forever, literally. Chapter 5, My First Taste of Magic. For the very first test of my crayon's magical ability, I decided on a drawing that was both simple to illustrate and tasty too. For some reason, the magic crayon would not let me put it down until the drawing was complete. And when I did, It twitched ever so slightly before silently disappearing in a tiny puff of white smoke. To my utter astonishment, my absolutely exquisite and perfectly realistic drawing of a pizza and the paper it was drawn on did the same. And in its place, you guessed it, a piping hot, fresh from the oven, large 8-slice plain cheese pie appeared on my kitchen table. Now that was magical, I grinned to myself. Before my first bite, I looked at the 7 remaining magic crayons, and even at that tender young age, I recognized that I had something very special and maybe even powerful in my possession. That realization made it easy to fight the urge to pick up another crayon and draw an icy cold glass of root beer to go with my pizza. And yes, the pie was as good as my drawing looked, so perfectly delicious that every time I think about it, I can still taste it. Chapter 6, My Backyard. Not only did I refrain from drawing that icy cold glass of root beer, but I waited a full year before my next drawing. I was 10 years old, and with a whole year to think about it, I decided to test the complexity of a single drawing. I looked out at my barren backyard and began to draw, with the help of my crayon, of course. Nearly 1 hour of detailed crayon work and 2 puffs of white smoke later, I looked out my kitchen window and my jaw, figuratively, dropped to the ground. I remember running outside to see if it was all real, and just to make sure, I gave my new backyard a full workout. I took my new 10-speed bicycle for a few spins around the block, followed by a refreshing dip in my new Olympic-sized in-ground swimming pool. To top it off, I climbed the ladder at the base of my enormous new oak tree and spent the afternoon relaxing in my new, super deluxe, tricked-out treehouse. All that, and with just 1 crayon. Chapter 7, Too Close for Comfort. I was in middle school when I pulled the 3rd crayon from its cardboard home. My inspiration came from a must-pass science test that I wasn't quite ready for. I needed a sheet of black construction paper for this slightly devious drawing, and boy, was that magic accurate. 18 inches of powdery snow blanketed the ground in the early morning, just like I drew it. Only one problem. The night before, during the storm, my father skidded off the road on his way home from work. It could have been much worse, as he sustained a few cuts and bruises from the airbag and a fractured left ankle. I did get my snow day and a reprieve from that science test, but our family car spent 2 weeks in the body shop. My dad got a night in the ER and a new orthopedic walking boot. My failure to heed the warning or to consider any unintended consequences of my drawing ahead of time made for a very close call and a lesson learned. However, realizing that I could control the weather left me wondering what the limits of my magic crayons might be. Chapter 8, He's Back. Another year or so older, and I had a crazy idea that I prayed would work. So, I put crayon to paper, drawing a perfect likeness of my old Noof in his prime. I even wrote his name on the ID tag that hung from his collar. Then I tried something different. I wrote a notation because I couldn't capture these qualities in a drawing. Quote, a loyal, obedient, and immortal dog who can talk to me. Unquote. At the time, I thought that this might be asking too much for magic, but I just had to give it a go. I heard his friendly woof before the white smoke cleared. Bean arrived in his prime, shaggy black coat, the same old goofy smile with just a touch of drool. He's more loyal and obedient than ever. He speaks when spoken to, though everyone else just hears barks, and he has not aged a bit in all these years. At the time, I smiled to myself and wondered if real magic might not have any limits at all. Chapter 9, Easy Peasy Payday. I was a sophomore in high school when I decided to try the obvious. After all, who needs a part-time job when you have a magic crayon, seemingly without limits? The detail with which I drew my next picture was indistinguishable from the original engravings. When the white smoke cleared, there sat 8 stacks of $20 bills. There were 8 bundles in each stack and 50 bills in every bundle, just like I drew it. My calculator told me that it was $1,280, but it looked like a lot more than that. Whatever. As it turned out, it was more than enough to get me through high school and college without ever having to work a boring minimum wage job. This idea really tested my willpower, but in the end, I did manage a bit of self-control. No treasure chest overflowing with priceless jewels, no vault filled with 24-karat gold bullion, not even a winning Powerball lottery ticket. I thought of the warning and reasoned that being overly greedy would probably not end well for me. Now, down to my last 3 crayons, it took me a long time before deciding what would come next. Chapter 10. Back in Time. Like many young boys, I fell hard for dinosaurs. Triceratops, Stegosaurus, Tyrannosaurus, Diplodocus, and all the others. It was a fascination that never went away. Now, with only 3 crayons left, I owed it to myself to try to do the impossible. Glad I gave this idea some serious thought before drawing. I was careful not to endanger my college campus, and I didn't want to strand any dinosaurs in the 21st century. So I committed to what had to be a 2-crayon round-trip adventure. It took me and the crayon well over 2 hours, as it was the most detailed drawing yet. I made sure to add a label. Late Cretaceous period, 65 million years ago. I also tried something different. I drew myself into the picture. After my crayon and my drawing did the usual, to my utter astonishment, I did the same. Poof. Chapter 11. Dinosaurs galore. Who needs a time machine when you have a magic crayon was my first thought when I got there. My God, is it hot, humid, smelly, and wet, was my next. It was an unforgettable adventure. Jurassic Park, without the park, but with all the excitement, and yes, all the danger. The literal highlight of my trip was the scenic flight, courtesy of my Petrosaur tour guide. I got to see dozens of different dinosaurs and more as we soared far and wide above a spectacular, yet savage and foreboding prehistoric landscape. While taking it all in, my thoughts drifted to the asteroid collision that would soon alter everything I had seen. As we landed, a small mammal scurried by, reminding me that thankfully there would be some survivors. Back on the ground, things were a lot more treacherous. After one very lucky escape from becoming a T-Rex snack item, I thought twice about pushing my luck any further. Well, Max, I thought to myself, I think it's time to get back to the future. Chapter 12. Safe and Sound. My college dorm room was a quick and easy drawing away. Using my second-to-last crayon to get myself back safely was well worth having my dinosaur dreams come true. As I lay there staring at the ceiling and reflecting on my series of drawings over the years, it struck me that the only real limit to magic might well be my own imagination. With only 1 crayon left, I had some serious imagining to do. Chapter 13. YOLO. My college days were behind me, and my imagination had been stretched to its limit when this somewhat risky idea popped into my head. I wondered if it just might be the workaround I'd been looking for ever since the day one of my crayons refused to draw. I sat there with Bean at my side, the last of the 8 magic crayons squirming in my hand, and a clean sheet of paper ready to give it a go. But I hesitated and put the crayon back in its box, worried that I was taking too big a chance on what could be my last drawing. So I decided to ask Bean. His answer was more than ironic. Go for it, old man. As they say, you only live once. I realized that he was right. After all, I still had a head full of magical ideas and a dog to take care of. Chapter 14. And then there was one. This drawing took some time, but my last crayon did not let me down. The shop looked just like I remembered it, and I looked exactly like me. Next thing I knew, I was standing at the register, completing my credit card payment. As I was walking out the door with a bag filled with 8 small white boxes, Mr. Davenport called out to me, "Make sure you heed that warning, young man. Be careful what you draw." Thank you all for listening. I sincerely hope you enjoyed all 27 of my short stories in audio format. Special thanks goes out to Stephanie Larkin and Denise Reichert at Red Penguin Books. Thank you both for making my publishing journey possible.